Welcome to A Word from the Wise, the podcast from Solwise, where we talk about products, news, or anything that you might be interested in within the industry. We do these on Spotify, Amazon Music, or anywhere where you get your podcasts from. Or if you prefer to see us, you can scare yourself and go and watch us over on YouTube and enjoy today's podcast. Hello and welcome to A Word from the Wise, our latest instalment of the podcast. Today I've got Daniel joining me and we're going to talk about the Teltonika switches.
A few of them,
yeah. So there's a nice little range of switches now, so we thought we'd focus in potentially, I suppose, on 4, just so that you can get an idea of the differences between a bunch of them. There are a couple of unmanaged, and then there's a bunch of there's a couple of managed, should I say, and a bunch of unmanaged. Is that something? Can you explain really the difference? What do you get by having a managed switch? What does it manage? What does it do?
Well, with the managed one, what it mainly means is it has an interface, a web interface,
right,
like the Teltonika routers do and stuff like that, where you can do things like implement VLANs, add quality of service features, so you can set certain ports to have more priority if you've got only so much bandwidth to go around and you need something that will require more bandwidth, like IP cameras. You can set the port that the camera's on to have more priority, so it'll work faster even if there's other things going on the other various ports.
So really the type of customer that would take that is likely to be a professional or a business or something like that. It's not going to be the sort of thing I would have in my house, for instance.
It's for busy networks, perhaps in industrial areas or just areas where there's certain network equipment that is key and needs to be running fast all the time.
Yeah.
So it's got other features that help with that kind of thing. Like it's got port mirroring for like redundancy. Like if the port dies, then all the data going on is mirrored in another port, for instance.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing the managed equipment does.
So are there any other advantages to the managed switches other than the interface?
They also support a few industrial protocols that again help them for use in industrial kind of areas and like professional offices. Things like Profinet, which is for help with data processing, basically, for machinery and M2M stuff, machine to machine, that involves data. And MRP protocols, which are for if the network has a ring topology. It's just like a backup data path, because obviously a ring topology has a primary path, and typically if that goes down it can kill the network. But if you've got one of these managed switches on with MRP protocol, it's got backup, basically. So the network can continue seamlessly if something goes wrong, which can be important
sorry to interrupt.
If it's industrial and it needs to be going on all the time, then the seamless redundancy is important.
So it's generally going to be your network professional that's going to be using the managed switches.
Yes.
Yeah, in all likelihood. Now, whilst they're called managed switches, do they support the RMS remote management system that Teltonika offer on the routers and gateways?
None of them support RMS,
right,
not even the managed ones.
And does that matter, do you think?
It doesn't necessarily matter because they're only switches, so they're going to be on a network that has a DHCP router of some kind, you'd expect, or just a router at least. And if that's a Teltonika one, then they're on RMS. And if they're not Teltonika, then you can still port forward into them to access the network. So there's still ways of remotely accessing them if needed.
So Teltonika sound like they've thought about this and thought there's no point having RMS available for switches. You don't need it.
Not particularly needed.
Okay. The other thing I've noticed about these is some of them are DIN mounted included. So if you're watching this on YouTube, the TSW304 has got the DIN mounting actually on the device. The 202 does as well, that's a managed one, isn't it? But the others, they've got the DIN rail thing, haven't they? But you have to buy a separate thing, is that right?
Basically, yeah. Some of them have integrated DIN rail brackets, like
Yeah.
the two we've mentioned there. And then the ones that don't have that, like these ones are TSW 100 and 101, they are all, like the Teltonika routers and IoT gateways, they're designed where you can buy this sort of universal Teltonika DIN rail bracket kit, which just fixes onto it, and then that's basically adapting it into being DIN rail mountable.
And even then, we've got a couple of options there, haven't we? Because we've got some plastic ones, we've got some metal ones.
There's some that are for surface mounting as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now, with the switches, unlike that, because all the routers come with a power supply, but not all of the switches do. So some come with a power supply, some do not. What's the thinking behind that?
For the PoE switches, like the TSW 100 and 101,
Yeah.
and the 202, this managed one, they provide PoE output power. The reason some of them don't come with a power supply is because Teltonika provide various standalone power supplies of different powers, basically.
Yeah.
So this one that it does come with, the TSW 100, comes with a 30-watt power supply. And so if you plug that into this TSW 100, it has a 30-watt budget. And that basically, the budget is obviously each port can only have so much power coming out of it, and how much you put in depends on how much there is to go around. So the reason some of them don't come with it is because if you're only planning to power one device, you don't need to buy a high power supply, you just need a basic one, 30-watt one. If you wanted, say, 4 PoE devices all powered by 802.3AT, for example, which is the higher power one, the PoE Plus one, then you would want to buy a PoE or just a power supply of a certain wattage to
So does that mean the TSW 100, although it comes with a power supply, the higher power supplies that we do, you have one of those and just swap it out?
Yeah.
Yeah. So really, it's about what you want into power.
It's about how much how much PoE budget you'd need. Yeah. And then some of them, for instance, the 304 isn't PoE, and that doesn't come with a power supply. That's because Teltonika that one is primarily a DIN rail mounted one, and Teltonika expects that you'll have a DIN rail power supply that you're going to power it with already,
right?
Or just PoE. That one can be powered by PoE. These ones can't.
So it doesn't give the PoE, but it can be powered by PoE.
That one can be powered by PoE.
Yeah.
These ones that do PoE can't be powered by PoE, so they do need a proper power supply.
Right. So some of the switches are PoE, and of those switches, some of those are then PoE Plus. What does the plus mean?
PoE Plus just means it's got more PoE power outputting, which means you can power more high power things, so 802.3AT, which takes more power than 802.3AF.
Yeah.
And it also means that you can get the effective range of the Ethernet cables providing PoE just to be a bit further along. Because if you've only got standard PoE and you're trying to power something that's maybe 100 meters away, perhaps not all of the power will reach along that cable, whereas a PoE Plus it definitely will do.
Right, so if you've got something that is a further distance, go with the PoE Plus option.
Yeah,
essentially is what you're saying.
Which is the TSW 101 over the TSW 100.
Right, okay. Excellent. What is that, a little explainer? There's not actually a lot to say about a switch, is there really?
It is standard switches.
Yeah, and they're nice
but good
quality.
Switches,
yeah. They're all metal, nice quality feel
nice
about
heavy.
them. So yeah, well, thank you very much, Daniel. And if anyone's got any questions, we can send them in, and we'll answer them where we can. Thank you very much. Thank you for either watching or listening to today's podcast. If you've got any ideas, pop us an email over to sales@solwise.co.uk, and we will see you next time.